Good evening, everybody. Those that know me and know my wife and children know that we left the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints not too long ago. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, of course, is better known throughout the world as Mormons, even though they don't really like being called Mormon anymore. But I'm not going to waste my breath by saying members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints very often. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. There's a lot of questions when you leave the church. There's a lot of people that wonder why, and they will ask you a lot of questions, and some of the questions are pretty good, but others not so much. Just to give a little background, I did grow up Christian. I went to church every other weekend. My grandfather was a pastor, and my father was a Vietnam vet. He was mentally ill after Vietnam. Some of the people in the church didn't really treat my father too good, and I noticed this growing up. That's one of the reasons I became bitter. A lot of it was on me. Um, when I had the opportunity to attend other churches, I did. At 17, I attended a Foursquare Gospel Church in Stockton, California, where I met an amazing youth pastor who I actually have a little bit of contact with still. Not as much as I'd like at this point, but I may change that. Um, I became very bitter there too because of some of the things I witnessed with Christian people. And of course, I know now that not every Christian, no Christian is going to be perfect, but everybody, is going to fall short sometimes, and I'm no exception to that. But people, when I leave time I leave the Mormon Church, especially Mormons, want to know why, but they also want to know why I joined in the first place. Well, I joined in December 15th, 1996. I was baptized as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I was very bitter against Christianity at that point, mostly because of people, but I also, just desired something different. I had quite a few friends growing up in California. Had the opportunity to move to St. George, Utah, which I did. And I liked a lot of things that the church offered, mostly the brotherhood. I did enjoy that. That was something I kind of lacked. I had friends, but I always still kind of felt alone in a crowded room, so to speak. And I'm kind of introverted, and it's hard to believe, I know. I have traits of both introvert and extrovert, though. But I met a man on who was on a ward mission night, and great man. He passed away in 2016, and I will always love this man and his wife. They were good people. I was living with a cousin, a lot older cousin. She was actually just barely younger than my mother. My mother has a kind of a strange family, where she's the youngest of six, and so she was actually born an aunt. But this cousin in particular, she and her adult son, my age, were doing methamphetamine. And the man I told you about that baptized me in the church one night came over, and I was trying to sleep for work, and he saw what was going on, and he asked me to move in with him and his wife, and I did. And I got my own place shortly after that, but they opened their home to almost a complete stranger. And honestly, I got baptized partly out of obligation. I didn't fully buy into everything that the Mormon Church, excuse me, was selling, but I did like a lot of it. And shortly after, I was baptized December 15th, 1996, and March of 1998, I met the woman who would be my wife and who still is my wife till this day. We waited a year to go to the temple, and we were pretty active. We got very active at the church at that point, and we started having children right away. 6 months after our daughter was born, we were sealed sealed in the St. George Temple. And my relationship with my in-laws improved at this point. Um, we were active in our ward, and I had callings and stuff, and we just kind of just went through the motions for quite a while. We had a total of 5 children. I got to the point, it was probably around 2016, 2017, where I just realized that I was going through the motions. I didn't really believe the church anymore. and we went through serious periods of inactivity. My wife is included in that. We would go to church basically to get our temple recommends renewed, mostly for family functions. I remember, I think it was 2017, if I'm wrong, could be wrong, could be 2018. Oh, it was 2017, that's right. My sister-in-law with Down syndrome decided to get her endowments. We had been inactive at this point. We decided we wanted to be there for her. My mother-in-law was real big on no empty seats. So we went to the bishop, and we already knew what the answer was going to be, what we needed to do. We started going to church again. We started paying our tithing. We had like 3 months to get ready for this. We were being dutiful members again. And of course, she went through the temple. We were there. And shortly thereafter, our nephew was married in the Salt Lake Temple. We went there too. And I was really realizing then and there that we were doing this for other people. In January 2018, I went and talked to my father-in-law, who I've always went to for spiritual advice. And I was honest with him. I said, I'm going through the motions. I don't feel the Spirit. I don't know what I believe right now. And he told me, it's okay. It's okay to go through the motions because that's how you learn. And just keep doing. Basically, I worked with troubled teenagers, and some of the troubled ones, real bad troubled ones, they would tell, if need be, fake it till you make it. In other words, stay out of my hair. Just do what you got to do and just behave. And, just do what you're expected to do. It never really worked for them because some of those kids ended up going to prison. And I'm not saying, if I fake it until I make it with the church that I'd go to prison or anything, but it was along the same lines. I was not going to fake it till I made it. And he also said, read the Book of Mormon, pray, things I kind of expected, things I kind of knew that he would do and say. And so I set out to read the Book of Mormon. And I really got into it a lot. And honestly, before this, the Book of Mormon always bored me. I was more into the Bible. Every time I give a talk in church, and I give quite a few, I leaned heavily towards the Bible. And I'd mix the Book of Mormon in just to appease the audience. But I was really more reading the Bible. But I started reading the Book of Mormon, and I started seeing some things that I didn't really like and didn't know about. But one thing was that I didn't see anything about eternal families in the Book of Mormon. I saw the verse in Jacob against polygamy. That was just some of it. Then I started reading, stuff that Joseph Smith had said. And the funny thing is, I decided that I was, well, let me back up a little bit. April 2018, our son was set to go on a mission. He was going to turn 18 in April 2018. And he was getting ready to go on a mission. Well, around June or so, he goes and talks to stake president. And then he comes home and says, Dad, I'm not going to serve a mission. And the same thing with my sister-in-law. We had gotten active in the church. We had started paying our tithing. We started doing what we're supposed to do because we had a son that was going to be going on a mission, and we did not want to have an inactive family, him having an active family at home while he was serving a mission. So we decided to do what we were supposed to do again. When he tells me, Dad, I'm not going to serve a mission, it's like, well, I'm not going to go to church anymore because I'm not doing it for the right reasons. I was going for a lot of different people. So July 2018, around July, maybe August, I think it was July though, I became a born-again Christian. I was driving my work truck and I said the prayer with Joel Osteen of all people. And I went home from work that night and told my wife, says, hey, I'm a born-again Christian now. And when I said the prayer, I felt a call, immediate call to ministry. My grandfather always told me I'd be a pastor. And I felt an overwhelming desire to serve. It was something I still can't explain to this day the feeling I got from that. My wife told me she could never belong to a faith that didn't believe in eternal families. And I was telling her, if it's not true, what does it matter? But she was hanging on to this. And around September of 2018, I learned about the gospel topic essays through a YouTube video. I hadn't been reading anti-LDS literature at this point, and despite what people may think, there are plenty of things that you could read from church material that will make you question. You don't have to go into the anti-LDS stuff to read that. But I told my wife about these essays, and she kind of shined me on a little bit. And she wasn't looking to leave the church at all at this point. And part of it was she was raised that way. She lived that way her whole life. 42 years at that point she was in the church. So I understand where she's coming from. And when you have your husband come home and say, "Hey, I'm a born again Christian," just like that, it's got to kind of blow her mind a little bit. So I was actually contemplating at this point. I was looking at different churches, attending different churches. And as of September 2018, I was looking, maybe I should just go with the flow and continue studying Buddhism, which I had taken up for a while to get some semblance of spirituality. I wasn't planning to become a born again Christian because I was still very bitter at that point. When I listened to Michael Wilder's testimony, any thoughts of going through the motions were put out of my head instantly. When I heard that testimony, it's like, yeah, I can never go back to this. And I prayed to God. I said, whatever you have to do, please help my wife and children. One day I was at work at a drug and alcohol rehab, and my wife texts me and says, "Did you know what was in these essays?" She had actually read the essays by herself. And then she tells me on text, one of the sweetest texts I've ever had in my life. She said, "Joseph Smith was not a good man or a prophet of God." And I almost did a backflip in my office. I was very excited that she had saw the light. And of course, it wasn't instantaneous. It took a little while. Around November of 2018, we decided we were going to take our garments off, not wear our garments anymore. And our oldest son, he was talking to my father-in-law, his grandfather, about him doubting the church himself, and then he sold us out and told him took our garments off. So he talked to my wife about that, and she said, "Well, I'm having doubts. I am," because she went to him with the gospel topic essay questions. He didn't have any good answers for her, and that was what we found in the church. We found that there wasn't any good answers. Nobody could explain anything. All we could hear were excuses. And we got real tired of hearing these excuses all the time. It just made us angry to hear these excuses, and people couldn't give us straight answers. Like, well, you just got to believe. I'm not just going to believe to believe. I'm not going to doubt my doubts, as some people say. That is ridiculous. So I started going to a church called Sunrise Christian Church. And at this time, our fourth oldest son, he was about to turn 14 and to be, of course, ordained a teacher. And I told him, I said, "Son, I'm not going to be able to ordain you." And, that's one of the reasons I want to stick around, too, because as an active member, I saw men who were not able to perform these ordinances for their children. And I always thought, that kind of sucks to sit back and watch another man ordain your children into things or baptize your children. And it bothered me, but it was mostly because of what people saw. And that's what I thought when I saw someone that was not able to do that. So I told him this, and he started going to church with me. And he was the first one to say the prayer with the pastor and become a born-again Christian in my family other than me. My wife, it took a little while longer. She had an experience when we went on a cruise of all places, and she had a very personal and spiritual experience where she knew what she was doing was right. And we had already decided to leave the church, but she wasn't going to become a born-again Christian at that point either. But I kind of got ahead of myself again. I tend to do that. We were planning on telling my in-laws after the holiday. We were going to wait till January. I shared a text, or not text them. I shared a post on a Facebook page, an ex-Mormon Facebook page. I think it was ex-Mormon Worldwide. Did not realize that it was public. And so my sister-in-law saw it, and what it said was, my family and I have decided to leave the Mormon Church, and we're searching out a Bible-based church. So she sent the text to my father-in-law to snitch off little sister, essentially. And he called and said, "Tell me it's not true." And he tried to get her back in, and she gave him opportunity after opportunity to try to smooth things over and try to convince her that everything was true from the LDS Church, but she knew it wasn't at this point. So she became a born-again Christian around March, April of 2019. My wife did. Our 16-year-old daughter did shortly after that. She's now almost 18. So we've been very blessed, and there's a lot of things, though, that still bother me about the LDS Church. One of the things that bothers me the most is when they say, well, people can leave the church, but they can't leave it alone. What I hear when they say that is that they want a free reign to give people a false gospel, to lie to people, to deceive people. That makes me very angry. And, a man of God cannot stand by and watch them lie to people. And I've told LDS people, I said, you know what, when you stop the missionary program, when you stop spreading lies to people, when you stop sending missionaries to tell people that they don't have the true fullness of the gospel that only you do, only your faith does, then I will stop. I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. I'm not going to put my head in the sand. I'm not going to live and let live when it comes to this. There's no way. And no Christian should. So that's very irritating when they say that. And it's guilt tripping, basically. And what I've learned after leaving the church is that there is severe emotional abuse and mental abuse in the church concerning eternal families. When my wife left, the first thing that was said to her, well, we're going to miss you in the afterlife. What kind of crap is that? Total guilt trip. It's exactly what a cult does. And maybe they mean well. Maybe the members are just deceived. But the leadership knows they're deceiving people. And I could be friendly with the members, but I can never be friendly with the leadership while they're doing this. And I pray for the leadership every night. I do. We pray always that they will open their eyes, because they can still be redeemed. They need to renounce the false gospel and the false teachings. Anyway, I just want to share part of my testimony of why I left the church. And I appreciate whoever listens. And have a good night. Thank you. Bye.